Welcome to Health is a Skill, where we explore the mindset, tools, and daily practices that make optimal health not just possible, but sustainable. I'm Todd Vande Hei, CEO of Stark, and I have gone from vegan to paleo to keto to carnivore, from cryosaunas to ice baths to training like an athlete to being injured like one, enhancing my mobility and optimizing my sex hormones with thousands of labs and various forms of scans. I'm surrounded by high-level medical doctors, naturopathic doctors, chiropractors, nutritionists, and strength coaches, all leading me in concert to a state of optimal health. And I'm here to share that with you, regardless of your age, your genes, or your medical conditions. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Our bodies, they were designed, they were built for an entirely different world. And this is my theory as to why we're all so grossly unhealthy, especially in first world countries where everything is so much easier physically and so much more convenient. Humans are designed to create convenience. I mean, think about all of the challenges of our past. Hunting and gathering, bathing in streams, drinking water from rivers, and then farming as we advanced, and then heating, and then grocery stores with refrigerated groceries and antibiotics to save our asses. And now we have air conditioning. We have the entire web in our pockets. And now LLMs and little robots delivering DoorDash without a human involved. We evolved under the sun. We were barefoot on the earth and surrounded by things like whole foods and seasonal rhythms. And now we're bathed in blue light 24 hours a day, possibly if you want it, 7 days a week, inhaling synthetic fragrances, chewing ultra-processed, convenient foods, and spending our days stressed out in temperature-controlled rooms. We have become so soft, and it's human nature to pursue that softness. We've arrived, luxury, comfort, and certainly safety. And this concept is known as what's called the mismatch theory, the idea that many modern chronic disease states, they stem from the gap between our biology and our environment. And this concept was largely popularized by evolutionary biologist Daniel Lieberman and an anthropologist studying the health patterns of hunter-gatherer societies versus industrialized nations. The long and the short of it is our genes are still wired for survival in a hunter-gatherer world where we don't exist any longer, but we're living in a reality that's never been more artificial. So as Lieberman writes, we're Stone Agers living in the space age. There are certainly some big offenders. So let's go deeper into the most glaring mismatches with our bodies. Electromagnetic fields, EMFs. We're swimming in a sea of invisible frequency. Cell towers and Wi-Fi routers and Bluetooth and smart meters. While definitive conclusions are still being developed, preliminary research points to oxidative stress and mitochondrial impairment and sleep disruption and reduced fertility. They're all real concerns. And our ancestors never had this level of non-ionizing radiation pulsing through their environment 24/7 like we do today. Several studies suggest that chronic exposure to non-ionizing EMFs may contribute to a bunch of human health-related messes. So let's talk about oxidative stress. EMFs can increase the production of reactive oxygen species, ROSs, leading to DNA damage and cellular dysfunction. A 2021 meta-review in the Environmental Research analyzed 100 studies and found consistent evidence of oxidative stress caused by low-intensity radiofrequency radiation. So let's talk a little bit more about your mitochondria. They're these tiny little powerhouses of the cell in every single cell. And they aren't just about energy. They actually control cell signaling, immune responses, apoptosis, which is the body's natural process of programmed cell death, which, by the way, is critical to living a long and healthy life. It's a way of clearing out damaged or unnecessary cells to keep things running as smoothly as nature intended. And even your epigenetic expression is affected by these little guys. And they're under siege constantly. Let me expand on apoptosis for a minute, because I think it's a really important concept for you to understand. It's the scientific term for programmed cell death. Think of it as your body's way of clearing things out, the garbage, removing damaged, malfunctioning, or even potentially dangerous cells in a controlled and efficient manner, like a controlled burn in a field. It's very, very important, not just to surviving, but to thriving. So it's not a bad thing. It's essential for health. Apoptosis helps prevent things like cancer by eliminating cells with damaged DNA. It supports immune function and plays a huge role in shaping tissues during development. It's like hitting the delete button on stuff that's no longer serving you. So when apoptosis is disrupted, either by environmental toxins or EMFs or mitochondrial dysfunction, those faulty cells, they survive longer than they were intended, than they should. And that's when the risk of things like chronic inflammation and autoimmune issues, or even tumor formations, can kind of creep up. Emerging research shows that EMFs can disrupt mitochondrial membrane potential, which is basically the electrical charge difference across the mitochondrial membrane that allows your cells to generate energy efficiently. And when this charge is thrown off, it's like trying to charge your phone with a frayed cord. It just really doesn't work. Energy production slows down, and the whole system suffers as a result. It can also reduce ATP production and increase leakage of reactive oxygen species, ROSs. And the translation of that is that your cells produce less energy and they produce more waste. They just become super inefficient. And over time, this leads to systemic fatigue, which you can certainly feel, and brain fog, which you can certainly feel, poor recovery from just about everything from physical stress and psychological, emotional stress, and definitely inflammation, the things that so many people are silently suffering from, and they just don't really understand. A 2016 study published in Electromagnetic Biology and Medicine reported significant decreases in mitochondrial function in human cells after EMF exposure, and we're all exposed to EMFs, including reduced cytochrome C oxidase activity, which is critical for ATP generation. By the way, sidebar on ATP, just so you know how critical this is, ATP generation is how your body creates energy at the cellular level. If you're great here, think 5-year-old with a bunch of sugar bouncing off of the ceiling. If you're dragging ass all the time, you're not doing well with ATP generation. And ATP, by the way, stands for adenosine triphosphates. It's basically the fuel that powers everything your body does, absolutely everything. Every thought you have, every move that you make, contracting muscles, firing neurons, digesting food, repairing tissue, everything. No ATP equals no life. So mitochondria are the organelles responsible for making ATP. And you can think of them like tiny powerhouses inside of your cells. And when they're really, really working well, you feel alert and strong and energetic, and I would say even optimistic because of the energy. And when ATP production drops, whether it's because of poor sleep or nutrient deficiencies or toxins that you're exposed to or EMF exposure, you feel tired, you feel foggy, you feel inflamed, you just generally feel sluggish. And I would suggest that it may even be why so many Americans suffer from things like anxiety and depression and other mental health issues. So if you're going to the gym to get abs, maybe you should look at the inside instead. And this is the real point to this whole dialogue. What's going on inside your body is critical to what you resemble outside of your body, because you can't generate energy to lift weights and you can't generate energy to recover from that weightlifting session. Because you can't do that, you'll never get that six-pack that you're reading about or you're attempting to get by training more. And that's why I talk about the concept of an inside-out approach to health. It's our philosophy, and it's inspired by a concept called the Wheel of Health. You need a giant repair job on your engine, basically, so you can drive at 80 miles an hour. I mean, the driving at 80 miles an hour up the 405 is like the presence of abs. Having a working engine is like the Wheel of Health. That's body composition, cardiovascular health, strength, hormones, sleep recovery and stress, detoxification pathways and gut health, nutrients, orthopedic health, and of course, mental well-being. They all need to be present for an extended period of time for you to get those abs. I hope that makes sense. You need those mitochondria to be functioning like a young person to generate the work and recovery that has to happen to actually be a young person. So when we say something like EMFs is impairing mitochondrial function, what we're really saying is that your cells can't make energy efficiently any longer. And without the energy, every other system in your entire body starts to break down. Even more alarming, some researchers propose that the rise in chronic conditions like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and chronic fatigue syndrome, they all have mitochondrial dysfunction as a common thread. And so because that's a common thread in theory, if the mitochondrial dysfunction goes away, so goes those disease states potentially. And environmental EMF exposure could be a hidden accelerant, so it's playing a role. In my opinion, it makes perfect sense. And again, we're at the beginning stages of the research indicating this, but I think this is what we're going to see in the future. How do we protect ourselves from things like these EMFs and other issues that lead to states of disease that we see in our elderly population? Your ancestors didn't have 5G antennas mounted to their bedroom walls. They weren't carrying around radiation emitting devices in their pockets and wearing them on their wrists 24/7. In a world where energy is the currency of resilience, preserving your mitochondrial function is one of the smartest things that you can do. That's why we focus so much at Stark on tools that stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis. It's like the things that heat exposure, cold exposure, breath work, strength training, high quality sleep, these all lead to that. And by the way, other than sleep and recovery, most of the things to expose yourself to in order to have your ancient body work in a modern environment is to avoid only doing physically easy things. I hope that makes sense. Avoid doing things that are physically easy as often as you can. It's not that you have to do excessively hard things all the time, but you need a daily dose of discomfort. Like be really cold, be really hot, drive yourself physically to a state where you're out of breath. These things have to be present on a regular basis. In order to really be healthy, you have to have that contrast and you have to have that stress so that your body can respond and adapt to it and be healthy. Very good read, by the way, The Comfort Crisis. The author's name is Michael Easter, I believe. Fantastic book, and it'll give you some more historical perspective on the concept that I'm sharing with you. Let's talk a little bit about sleep disruption. Exposure to EMFs, especially at night, has been shown to reduce melatonin production. Melatonin isn't just a sleep hormone. It's a powerful antioxidant. Lower levels impact both sleep quality and systemic recovery. I take a lot of melatonin every night. I wish I didn't have to. It works for me, and I don't work well unless I take it. Maybe someday when we have all figured out how to fully navigate our world designed for comfort, I won't need it any longer because my body will produce enough on its own naturally, which is the target. Another common modern day problem that we're facing is reduced fertility in all first world nations. Japan is one of the leaders in terms of having that problem, and we're starting to see that in the United States as well. Studies on sperm motility and quality have shown significant declines when exposed to EMFs from phones and laptops. A 2012 study, so it's 13 years ago when we're recording this right now, published in Fertility and Sterility, found that mobile phone radiation can decrease sperm count, motility, and morphology. That's really freaking scary because we are just surrounded by it and inundated by it. It is a part of our lives. I think someday in the future, we're going to have other technology that's not so damaging. By the way, of course, I have my iPhone sitting right next to me. So it's not like I'm able to figure out how to live without these things. I think we all need them, but in the future, we're going to see that they're probably damaging to us and that there are maybe better solutions. The World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer currently classifies RF radiation as a group 2B possible carcinogen, which puts it in the same category as lead, which we at one point in our past, in the 50s and 60s, believed was safe. It was in paint, and DDT. That's not nothing. Sidebar, DDT is a synthetic chemical compound that's used widely in pesticides and especially during the mid 20th century. Today, clearly we don't use those types of products, but as we move into the future, I think what we're going to see is that we've exposed ourselves to a lot of things right now today that we shouldn't have, and we'll end up having to back out and course correct. That particular product became famous for its role in reducing malaria by killing mosquitoes. Obviously, it did humankind a great good there. But here's the issue. DDT, it doesn't break down easily in the environment or in the human body. It bioaccumulates in fat tissue, and meaning it sticks around for a very long time. And when you have things that bioaccumulate in your fat tissue, sadly, if you are grossly overweight or have high body fat percentages and you have all of these toxins stored in that fat tissue, when you lose body fat, it can recirculate and actually make you feel sick. And that's why we see a lot of people yo-yo dieting, because when they lose that fat, they actually feel sick. It's a very tight negative feedback loop. This can also lead to reproductive issues and developmental problems as well. Wildlife toxicity, especially thinning eggshells, which is caused the near extinction of the bald eagle. By the way, the issue of the bald eagle population collapse due to DDT was especially well documented in Minnesota and other parts of the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes region. Minnesota played a big role in this story. DDT runoff entered the lakes and streams where it bioaccumulated in fish. The bald eagles would swoop in, eat the fish, become contaminated. It would build up in their systems, and when they would lay eggs, the eggs were too thin and they couldn't withstand the weight of the mother eagle. By the early 1970s, Minnesota, which is where I'm from originally, had fewer than 100 nesting pairs of bald eagles. And DDT was banned in the U.S. in 1972. The bald eagle population began to recover dramatically since its ban, especially in Minnesota, which now has one of the largest nesting populations in the lower 48 states. Like I said, I'm from there, and I can see the difference just by looking around. You literally can see bald eagles flying around when you're walking on a sidewalk, or you are stuck in traffic. You'll see them posted up on things like buildings and elsewhere. It's really quite remarkable. There's a book by an author by the name of Rachel Carson. It's called Silent Spring. And that particular book in 1962 exposed many of these dangers and played a huge role in getting DDT banned in the U.S. in 1972. But you can see, because we're in 2025 now, how long it took the environment to recover. And that's the effect on bald eagles. What about us? These things certainly have an effect on us. Our ancestors never had this level of non-ionizing radiation pulsing through their environment 24/7. We're just not designed to live in tech soup like that. And while science is evolving, it makes sense to err on the side of caution. So how does that look? I've got to tell you, in my opinion, it's very, very hard. Not sure about you, but I don't use earbuds. I'm not allowed to. My wife prevented me from doing this years ago. I'm not allowed to use other Bluetooth devices that are close to my head. My astronaut brother, by the way, his name is Mark Vande Hei, thinks I'm absolutely crazy. He thinks there's no issues with EMFs. We had this conversation about 5 years ago. The research has developed a little bit further since then. I, of course, thinks he's wrong. He thinks I'm wrong. I think I'm way smarter than him. I think a lot of people would debate that. He attempted to school me on EMFs, by the way, in one ear and out the other at that point in time. I just don't think he's critical enough of our modern lifestyle. I'm laughing because he's my big brother, and I don't really think of him like an astronaut. I just think of him like the big brother that I shared a bedroom with growing up. So I try to go as old school as I possibly can. And there are certainly other factors like processed and ultra-processed foods. Food today, it often comes in brightly colored packaging instead of from soil like nature intended or a pasture. These engineered substances are, as you know, hyper palatable. They're calorie dense and they are nutrient poor, which means that as you eat them, you need to continue to eat. Your body is desiring the nutrients it needs, and the food you're giving it doesn't have them. So you have to eat more of those nutrient light foods as a result. And that can certainly lead to all the issues that we have regarding or spinning around metabolic syndrome in the United States. And also think seed oils and emulsifiers and artificial sweeteners and lab-made flavors, all of which confuse our body's hunger signals and overload detox organs like the liver and create chronic excessive inflammation. And I mean, it's the job of the chefs that design these foods, of course, to sell their food. That is a good processed food chef. They use food science. They have gotten into it to sell food, not for your health. So recognizing that foods like this currently are legal is not enough to believe that they're good for you. You have to really become your own protector when it comes to the food that you're eating and buying from the grocery store. Let's also talk about microplastics and endocrine disruptors. We're now finding microplastics in placentas, in breast milk, and even on the inside of our bloodstreams. And recently, a study done on testes indicated that 85+% of all testes have microplastics in them. It's super scary. Also, another point related to infertility in the United States. And I think it's just going to keep getting worse. So these aren't inert. They're actually endocrine disruptors, which are chemicals that interfere with the body's hormonal system. They can mimic natural hormones like estrogen. They can block hormone receptors or after hormone production, metabolism, and elimination. They interfere with and create a mess with metabolism and reproduction and development, immune function, and even brain health, mimicking or blocking hormone function, which wreaks absolute havoc on your metabolism and reproduction and immune systems. And this is my theory why young men are so screwed up. Sorry, bros. We see this all the time when we do sex hormone tests at Stark. An older guy brings his son in. So the guy might be 50, the son might be 20. And the 50-year-old male has higher testosterone levels than the 20-year-old son. And that is the opposite of what it was like when I was 20. It's very unnatural and it's very scary and has an impact not on just things like body composition, but on cognition and mental health. And so we see this rising problem with mental illness among young people. And it's so obvious why it exists. If you just run some labs on these poor young guys, you'll see that they're just not functioning the way nature intended. So we're also faced with a lot of chronic, what I'd call artificial stress. It's not lion chasing your ass type stress. That's the way our bodies were built. Adrenaline surges through your body and cortisol levels rise, and you're able to become stronger and fight or run faster because of that. This is not that. It's the unrelenting, low-grade stress like emails and traffic and deadlines and financial worries and doom scrolling, which is one of my favorite things to never do because of the impact I know that it has on my body. And by the way, when I'm talking about my body, I'm not separating my mind from it. It is all one. And one of the most important things that I focus on for my own health is ensuring that my cognition is exceptional, because the way my brain functions affects everything that I do. I mean, it sounds so basic, but it's something that most people don't really consider. When they go and get a workout in, they're not really thinking about their brain, but they have to be in the right state of mind just to get your ass off the couch and drive to Equinox and get in the gym, out of the locker room, and actually get a workout in. That takes some form of drive. And if you don't have it, your brain is not working properly, you're never even going to get there. So at the same time, we are softer while being faced, because of the environment that we've been so successful in creating, while being faced with the stresses that our bodies really weren't designed to face. Wow, this is also negative. And let me get into some additional points before I get into some solutions. We also are surrounded by artificial light and other things that dysregulate our circadian rhythm. It's arguably one of the most damaging modern mismatches. Since the invention of the light bulb, our sleep has been on the decline. And when mobile devices entered the scene, it got exponentially worse. The blue light from screens suppresses things like melatonin. It delays REM onset. It reduces deep sleep. Throw in addictive things like porn and the amazing video games available today. I mean, when I was a kid, it was Pong on Atari, and you could only play it for like 15 minutes before it became boring. These things are so, you become enraptured with them that they're hard to peel away. And as a result, we've got a generation with shattered circadian rhythms. And I think it's another factor in why those young men I described, a 20-year-old that had the labs done with a 50-year-old father, why his sex hormones are so dysregulated. Let's talk a little about the comfort-centric indoor environments as well. We spend most of our time at about 72 degrees. What's the temperature in here? It's about 70, I would guess. It's well lit. We're in over-insulated boxes. There's no thermal stress, like no temperature changes that affect us and make us feel comfortable. There are no seasonal cues, especially here in Southern California. But our bodies need temperature fluctuation to activate heat shock proteins and activate your brown fat and the repair mechanisms that your body already has built in. We're just not triggering those because we're in a constant state of comfort. It's really a problem for our health. It makes us metabolically fragile. Again, check out the Comfort Crisis book. It kind of gets into a lot of those details. And I'm sure that there are others as well. So let's get into how not to be so fragile, because that should be your target, what you should have top of mind. How do I live in this world, have a happy and fulfilling life, but not be so weak, not be so fragile? The first step is in recognizing that a part of a highly functioning human is spending some time of your day in some level of discomfort. It can be a workout, for sure. Be too hot, be too cold, do something physically hard, eat for fuel most of the time, don't eat just for pleasure. That's a really scary, slippery slope. You don't need to do that all of the time, just some of the time, and maybe not even every day, but probably much more than what you do now. So, what's the fix? On a high level, at 15,000 feet, you need to attempt to replicate nature. The most effective path forward isn't about being perfect, it's about finding some sort of alignment. So we need to ask, what inputs did our body evolve to thrive on? And then do our best to bring those inputs back, even if we're living in a modern world. So here's how to frame this. An infrared sauna. It mimics the sweating and the heat exposure our ancestors experienced naturally. It promotes detoxification, it stimulates heat shock proteins, supports mitochondria and lymphatic movement. The ideal frequency is 3 to 5 times a week, 20 to 40 minutes each. I know it's a lot of time, and I know because I do this, but here's how I do it. I learn something. I listen to my favorite music. I work sometimes. My phone can hang out in the sauna for about 20 minutes, and I can actually do work. Sometimes I'm in there with my wife or one of my kids. I have to do those things. I also meditate, but I can't do it effectively in a sauna because it's just too uncomfortable. Let's also talk about the concept of lymphatic support. Things like dry brushing, using a loofah every day in the shower, walking, using a sauna, anything that helps move lymph. Our ancestors were in near constant movement, and so we want to try to get back to that state. Today we sit, like me right now, a lot. Lymphatic stagnation is a real issue. But let's define constant movement for a second. It's not like they walked 16 hours a day. They walked 5 to 10 miles a day. I walk 6 to 8 miles a day and include any training or zone 2 cardio in that calculation. So if they're hunting, because of how you move when you hunt, 8 miles can take several hours. For me, because I'm not hunting, but on a Zoom call with an attorney or whomever, my accountant, employees, I walk briskly. I get that same 8 miles in about 2.5 hours. And if you think about that in terms of the entire length of my day, the amount of hours I'm awake, it's not a very big part of my 16-hour day. 2.5 hours. It's really not a lot of time. It's really quite close to nothing because I move quickly, unlike that hunter. So why is it nothing? Because I'm working while I'm walking. So I know what you're probably thinking. If you need to tack on 2.5 hours to the end of your workday, it's nearly impossible to do that. But I do it while I'm working. So if you consider the work that you do, what parts of that work can you do while you're actually moving? Because I don't, like you, have another 2.5 hours at the end of the day. But what I do is I park far away from my office. I walk while meeting when I can. And by the end of the day, I'm at like 10,000 steps. Right now today, I'm at about 10,000 steps, and it's only 2:15. I walk Mango the dog with my wife at the end, and I finish between 11 to 13,000 steps a day. It seems effortless because it's built into my workday. It's not an added thing that I have to do. It is what I'm doing while I'm doing my work. And so if you guys are doing things like meeting with people like I meet up with on a regular basis, if it's face-to-face, I literally mic us both up, record it into my iPhone, upload it into my Fireflies, which is an AI note taker. Or if it's a virtual meeting, I make sure I'm walking within a Wi-Fi bubble or at a treadmill desk, and that's uploaded to my Fireflies. The interesting thing is because I've adapted all of my work-related meetings to me doing it on the move, or many of them, actually, not all of them, it's become second nature. And using an AI note taker to help with this process has actually made me a better listener, which I would think my wife would agree is a massive improvement for me as a human. And I would think for most young men too, and maybe older guys like me, it's not as big of an issue. But being able to just listen without being focused on taking notes from which to hold people accountable, it's way better for my relationship. Also, on a related note, not only is this helpful for your lymphatic support, but for your orthopedic health, your joints, and your body composition. You want a six-pack? Walk 15,000 steps a day for the next 60 days, and you'll get there so much faster than you ever would believe possible because it doesn't feel hard. We're wired to believe that if you want astounding outcomes, you have to do things that are really difficult. And walking is not intended to be difficult. It is low-grade energy usage, using the joints in your body the way they're intended, not sitting at a desk, but standing upright. Let's also get into clean air and clean water. Got to filter your water to remove things like chlorine and PFAS and heavy metals and microplastics. You got to use a HEPA filter for air indoors, especially in bedrooms where you spend 7 to 9 hours daily. Hopefully you're getting that much sleep. My favorite is the brand IQ Air. It's really an exceptional and very simple and sturdy air filter. It does a great job and also creates a nice, quiet space with the white noise that it throws off, which is really important if you're living in a place like Los Angeles. So there are also opportunities for environmental edits. You can turn off your Wi-Fi at night, put your phones on airplane mode while you sleep, use wired devices when possible. I know, wired devices, there's such a pain in the ass being connected to your phone with a wire. Just go back a little bit in time where there's a little bit less tech and go that way. Swap synthetic household and body products for low toxin alternatives. This is really, really important. I mean, you're literally washing your hands in toxic things and putting toxic lotion on your body and using toxic shampoo on your head. It's a serious pain. Find me on Instagram, by the way, and let me know if you have any questions about this particular concept. There's not enough of you even thinking that this is a thing to consider when it comes to your health, but it is a critical part of your health. Again, you're too focused on external fitness-related outcomes. Look to the inside. Remove this barrier, and you'll get those glutes and abs way faster than you think. I know this sounds extreme, but in my house, every sink is filtered, every shower head is filtered, all personal care products are clean, even my razors. I use a brand called Leaf, no affiliation. Check them out as well. It's good for the environment and good for your gonads. Temperature and light exposure. Expose yourself to cold and heat intentionally. Cold plunges, outdoor movement, warm showers followed by air drying. Cold showers also work. Make sure you are uncomfortable. Chasing comfort is a massive mistake and just a part of our lives, part of what we think we should be doing. Get sunlight within 30 minutes of waking. Limit artificial light at night. Use red lights. Wear blue light blockers. Put your phone away an hour before bed. Yep, I know that's a big sacrifice. It's the opposite of what you're doing today, right now. So build resilience, fasting, exercise, exposure to nature. All of these signal your body that it's alive and it's adapting and it's evolving. Think of it as inoculating your body against the softness of modern day life. Don't be soft. Softness is the same as misery over the long haul. You'll lose your body composition, your cardiovascular health, your strength, your hormones will decline, your sleep recovery and stress will be horrific, your body's ability to detoxify itself is problematic, even problems like constipation and not enough nutrients in your body, joint problems, and the worst of all, in my opinion, is mental well-being. That declines too. A soft life leads to a life of misery. On a related note, I poked fun at you for wanting a six-pack or better glutes, bigger muscles. Hey, look, I have those things, but I get them by constantly refining how to live my modern life in my ancient body. This is not new, just the environment that it lives in is. So the skill of health will help you complete that search. We have most of it figured out. It's essentially that strategy of trying to live the way your body was designed without changing your profession or your work life or your family life. We've got most of it figured out, but we're still learning a lot. The half-life of medical research today is somewhere between 12 and 18 months. So what we know about the human body is changing very quickly, and we have to bob and weave accordingly. So to wrap this up, you can't live like a caveman in the 21st century, but you can certainly steal the best parts of that lifestyle and blend them with modern tools. The world is more toxic than it's ever been, but with the right strategy, we can still thrive. There's an entire community at Stark that is thriving despite the fact that they are leading businesses and they're entertainers and they're traveling a lot and they have access to whatever money can buy. There have no limitations to that. But we have found ways to adapt their lifestyle so that their bodies are being used the way they were designed. So health is a skill, and learning to close the gap between our biology and our environment is one of the most important skills you can develop. Thanks for listening. If you liked today's episode, don't forget to like and subscribe, and please leave us a comment wherever you listen to podcasts. You want to learn more about Stark, you can find us at stark.health. That's stark.health.